Yeah, so we are recording this. So this will be on YouTube, Digital Careers Opportunity Worldwide. If you're not familiar with them, go to the website, DCOW member. They have thousands of members on their Facebook page in their Facebook group. So if you're not a member, please join on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter. I'm Michaela Vincent. I'm originally from Lake Charles, Louisiana, and I live in Atlanta, Georgia. I've been here for 11 years or so. And so welcome everyone. DCOW and I, we did something similar back in June, where we talked about former journalists who now work as communication directors for in government affairs. So now we're going to talk about former journalists that decided to go out on their own full time. Okay, Denise said Braves. I'm going to look at the comments before we really kick off one more time. Please drop your location and where you're from. So I am, like I just said, a former journalist. I graduated from the University of Louisiana, which is in Lafayette, Louisiana, with a degree in TV journalism, broadcast journalism. And I've done everything from newspaper editor to newspaper editor. I started my newspaper video blog. I mean, before blogs even really took off. So I was an editor, I was a writer, and then I became a local TV producer. I produced the #1 show in the market, which was KLFY TV 10. And I dabbled in PR, and then I came back to TV and I worked with CNN for 7.5 years. So I'm no longer full-time in journalism, but I do work for the DeKalb County Police Department as their public information officer, which basically means I'm over their entire communications. So every day I work with journalists, day in and day out. We work together, and it's an interesting job. But I'm gonna toss over to look, Miss Stephanie. I see that beautiful smile, Miss Stephanie, and hire Hubert, who I affectionately call it #hire handsome Hubert. Stephanie is originally from Ohio, but she now lives, Stephanie, forgive me, St. Petersburg, Tampa. And Hubert Tate is originally from Jackson, Mississippi. He'll tell you about his background, and he's also in Atlanta. Full disclosure, Hubert and I have been friends for over 10 years. We both worked together at KLFY TV 10. He was a reporter and I was a producer. Okay, my computer's making noises. Okay, thank you. I know what that is. That's my little attachment. So it might get dark. See, it's dark. Thank you. So I want to say that this is interactive. We won't just be, it's still doing that. We won't just be talking straight for 20, 30 minutes. If you have questions, drop them in. I don't know why it's still doing that. Uh-oh.
Michaela, it sounds, can you hear me or is my audio breaking up? And it's okay. Hey, y'all, hope y'all doing good. Y'all look good. Hey, Karen and everybody else. Okay, great.
I fixed it. I think I fixed it.
Okay, yes, ma'am. Okay. If you do this with your email and all of my digital / social media people, y'all know this, so y'all just be patient with Michaela. But if you just and I just want to say this, I will be on mute and I'm behind the scenes and Michaela is taking over, but you all look so good. A lot of you all have emailed your resumes who are looking for a job. And I mean, this right here, you're getting a lot of gems from journalism to entrepreneurship. This is, a kind of a seminar. So for my DCOW members, you are in for a treat. If you are not a member, just head over to the website. But Michaela, I met her as she was a CNN producer and she helped me get my first scholarship ever. So Michaela is like, she's a big wig. So just heads up.
Thank you, Kamara. I'm still working with my computer. So I'm going to pause again. We're going to hop over to Stephanie and Hubert to introduce yourselves, please.
Well, I guess I'll go first. My name is Stephanie Claytor. I was born in the suburbs of Cleveland, a town called Twinsburg. I currently live in the suburbs of Tampa, Florida, in a town called Lakeland. And I worked for almost 10 years in the TV news industry. I started out as a multimedia journalist in Iowa, and then I got promoted to be the weekend anchor and producer, as well as multimedia journalist. From there, I moved to Shreveport, Louisiana, and worked as a multimedia journalist. From there, I moved to Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I was a reporter. And then I came here to Tampa. I worked for Spectrum Bay News 9 for 4 years as a multimedia journalist and also in a bureau. And from there, I left and I dedicated my time to my travel blog, which is blacktrekking.com. And I also wrote my first book, which is a travel memoir called Black Trekking, My Journey Living in Latin America. And that's a little bit about my story. I also do freelance writing, and I can't wait to share some gems with you all.
Awesome. Well, my name is Hubert Tate. I am originally from Jackson, Mississippi. Went to Jackson State University for undergrad and went to Johns Hopkins for grad school. After college, I got my first job in Lafayette, Louisiana. I got my first TV job working as a video editor for 2.5 years in Jackson and at the CBS station there. And after college, I moved to Lafayette, Louisiana, worked for KLFY, then stayed there for a year, moved on to Mobile, Alabama, worked there for 3 years at the Fox station. Then I moved to Little Rock, Arkansas. I worked there for 3 years as an anchor reporter. And then it was in Little Rock, actually a little bit before, where I started doing some soul searching on life. And that's when I actually decided to get out of TV and I went straight into communications. Moved to DC, I was the press secretary and spokesperson for the Human Rights Campaign. And then I moved to Atlanta and worked for another nonprofit here. And then that's when I realized that I needed to go in a whole different direction altogether. And that's where I set out on my journey to get into real estate. Started real estate in 2017 and going on 5 years now. So 2022 will mark 5 years. And that's pretty much essentially my story of how I got to where I am today.
Oh my goodness, we got some heavy hitters in here. So let me tell you this. What I want you to do is first we're going to just start off with Q&A. So Stephanie, can you just start off with, like, what made you just go to full-time entrepreneurship? Like, that's a big jump. You go from reporting online, you're on TV, like you're a local celebrity. You go to NABJ, people see you, you're known on Facebook and Instagram. That can be like sort of like a starstruck thing. So what was the mindset from saying, listen, I'm going from journalism and now I'm going to start my own business? Because that's a big jump.
Well, I would say a lot of things happened, but on the surface, it looked like, oh, this is fabulous. Like, I'm on TV in front of like millions of people. I'm covering all these top stories. But it had been about 10 years of this, and being a multimedia journalist is a grind. Like, it's mentally, physically, and emotionally exhausting. And I had covered far more murders than anyone needs to cover and traumatic events. And it seemed like it was affecting my mental health, I would say. And I was just tired. And so basically I got pregnant and I had my son, and I talked to my husband and I said, you know what, I need a break. I don't think I want to go back. I want to raise my son. I want to be a mom. I want to breastfeed. And so I had already had my blog. I had already wrote my book. And it just seemed like a good time to just step away, take a break, reevaluate things, and work on my blog. And that's where I've been ever since. And I don't really miss the daily grind of covering news and being at breaking news and people. I think what really struck me was I actually had just given birth, and it was like maybe the next day, and I had to let the station know that I had the baby and they were going to put on the news. So I sent a picture of my son, and everybody saw it. It was on Facebook and everything. And this woman was calling I had my work phone with me so I could let them know in the hospital. And this woman, one of my contacts, she had already been on the news about graduation in the middle of COVID. And she was calling me at like 9 o'clock at night, the day after I gave birth, and she kept blowing up my phone. And so I didn't know who it was because I didn't save the number. So I'm like, why is this person from Miami keep calling me? And so I answered it, and she's like, I know that you just gave birth and you're probably busy, but I really think this story is important. And it was just things like that that happened right after my son that was born, that I spent my time during my maternity leave and those long nights like breastfeeding my son, just thinking about everything. And I was just like, I need a break, and I'm tired of working weekends. I want to spend time with my family. I'm tired of like breaking news. I'm tired of people calling me at all hours for stories. So I just didn't go back.
Stephanie, I'll tell you that one of my old bosses at CNN always said, this is a lifestyle. And I think that's the best way to describe TV news. It's a lifestyle. And it's not for everyone. It's really not. And I know for me personally, I realized it more once I got out. I'm like, oh my God, I was on the rat race. You know what I'm saying? Just going.
And I will say for me, like when I was in my 20s, I loved it. Like I would think back to like when I worked in Shreveport, we had the murders and everything, the shootings that were on our phone. We could see the scanner. And like I'd see a shooting, it didn't matter that I was about to get off. I'd be running out the door with my camera to go film it. Like one time I went at like midnight in the rain. And so I'm just thinking like some of the crazy stuff I did as a younger person. But I think that as I got older, especially when I hit 30 and I got married, and it wasn't like news wasn't my entire life anymore. And I just wanted to spend time with my family, especially when I had a kid. I didn't want my husband to have to take care of my son every Saturday while I went and covered stories. So I think, it's a lifestyle. And as a 20-year-old, it was great. But once I started hitting my 30s, it's like, I don't know about this anymore. I don't like doing this every day.
I could definitely chime in and talk about and kind of underscore how it affects your mental psyche. Because I remember, this is towards the end of my career in journalism, I remember I got assigned a story about a young girl who had been murdered in front of her high school. And they told me to go and, talk to the family. Of course, that's the normal pathway. And I remember getting the story, walking out of the editorial meeting, and I went back to my desk and I just started crying, like uncontrollably, like just crying. And the news director was like, what's wrong? Are you okay? Are you okay? I was like, I just can't do it. I cannot do it. And it was so hard. And I think that was pretty much the tipping point for me when I realized that, it was time to do something different. Now I got into journalism and communications because I believe in a free and open republic, freedom of the press. I mean, I believe in that. That is the foundation of our democracy. The model, that's a whole nother story, of how we get it done. And also, just the essence of covering news and covering stories. And so I can definitely piggyback on the reality that your mental health is very important, is really important.
Yeah. And so how has the transition been for you, Hubert, leaving news, going into being a successful real estate agent?
Great question. So I work the same amount of hours that I did as a reporter, the exact same. It's a grind. It's a lot of work. I'm not going to lie to you, especially in those first couple of years. However, what's different is the return on the investment. the salary and the, for those who put in the work, looks a whole lot different than the salary when you're a reporter. And there's no lie about it. And I think that, especially those first few years, my first 2-3 years in real estate, I mean, it was, I worked more hours than I did as a reporter. I worked more. But I knew I wanted to get to a point in my real estate business to where I did not have to work as much. And that's where I am now. I work smart. I work very, very smart now. So I work less hours now than a reporter than I did before, but it takes time to get to that point. And it takes a lot of consistency, a lot of sweat hours and sweat equity. And I remember, when I first got into the business, I was very scared, very, very scared. And for me, I made a pact with God. I was like, God, I got 3 months of living expenses. I got like $10,000 from my 401k. And I said, all right, we're about to do this. So if you want me to do this, which I think you do, I'm about to do it. So just let me know if you don't. And he never did tell me no. And I wanted him to tell me no because I wanted to like back out. But I just kept it moving. I kept it moving and moved forward. And that was 2017. And, the rest is history.
Stephanie?
Sure. What was the question?
How was the transition? Hubert said that he's working more hours now. However, the return on the investment is
Gotcha.
self-investment.
The transition has been interesting for me. I would say I'm kind of like working part-time because my main job, well, the agreement with my husband was like, if you're taking care of our son, then that's fine. As long as he's taken care of, then you can do your other, your blog and everything else. So I have kind of like transitioned part-time. It hasn't been easy. There's a lot of pitching involved with travel blogging and a lot of rejection, which you get that in news when you're trying to get people to do interviews. So that has been an adjustment. As far as freelancing, that's similar to when you go to your news director and pitch stories, except this time, you don't work for them. You're just reaching out to different editors and pitching stories, but there can be rejection there as well. But I would say it was kind of smooth for me because my blog was already set up. It's just a matter of like scaling it. And as far as freelancing, I had already had connections with different people in town to like write for. So it wasn't really hard to find a publication to write for me. And I got really lucky. I was on Clubhouse a lot because Instagram deleted my account. I was really upset with that. I worked and I got like 3,000 followers for my travel blog, and Instagram just one day deleted it out of nowhere. And so that was a huge blow. I thought about giving up then, but I didn't. But I got on Clubhouse, and one of the first days that I was on there, I met another freelance travel writer, and she suggested to me to sign up for Sonia Weiser. She has this list called Opportunities of the Week, and she sends out an email like twice a week with like a bunch of freelance opportunities and places you can pitch stories. And so that was a huge help for me to find other opportunities outside of the ones that I knew of. So it was kind of smooth in terms of like finding who I could work for to make money. It's just doing the work has been complicated because I'm watching my son. So yeah.
I know like Hubert and Stephanie, you guys both brought up two things for our next. There's some comments for you, Stephanie, and some comments. Hubert, you talked about the return on the investment, and that goes back to what we put on our flyer, being your own boss. Stephanie, you talked about the initial rejection, which is a challenge. How has it been, Hubert, really being your own boss? Doesn't it change the game? You don't care how many hours you work, right? The money you're getting, you're answering to yourself. And you have your clients. We all know that they can be tough in real estate, but let's talk about the joy of working for yourself.
Oh,
well,
yeah.
I think the joy, I think the joy is this, that you can say no when you have things going on and you don't want to do what they're asking you to do. And I think that I lost my train of thought. Oh, I like that. So when I was working as a multimedia journalist before I quit, I think what was really revealing to me was that I had went and applied for a raise, and I learned that, you know, they don't really give sizable raises. And so I just was like, so if I stay here, I'm not like, unless I get promoted to anchor, I'm just gonna get like almost the same salary every year unless I move. But I don't want to move because my mom is here and, you know, I like where I live. And then you got to quit to get out of the non-compete. So it was just like, I just like felt stuck. And so I didn't like the fact that no matter how hard I worked, and I was working very hard, I wasn't really going to see a sizable raise unless they wanted to promote me, and there wasn't really opportunities for that. So I like the fact that in entrepreneurship, like I can decide how much money I make by like how much I pitch and what stories I sign up for. Some are worth way more than others, and just the different things that I sign up for. So I like having control of my finances more so, somewhat, as long as people accept my pitches.
And that's great for Hubert. That's a great segue for.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, I mean, you know, in the same tone, in real estate, I mean, there is no ceiling. There is no ceiling at all. More effort and energy you put into your business, the more money you make. And the beautiful thing, and what I like about real estate is that, you know, there is no formal college education needed. You can just go to real estate school, sign up, and start selling houses. I, I mean, I know many folks who probably illegally sold drugs at one point in their lives, and then they turned their lives around and got into real estate.
Yeah.
And so they
Yeah.
take that same business acumen to real estate, and they are selling their butts off.
Yeah.
And I mean, and they don't have a college degree, they have a high school diploma, but that's it. And so I like the, you know, you can make as much money as you want. And also I'll say that um, you get to pick and choose, like Stephanie said, who you want to work with. You know, I have fired clients. You're not about to scream at me. You're not about to disrespect me. I will let you out of your contract and let you go somewhere else. And I like that. That power and control is amazing. Whereas, you know, when you're under a contract at a TV station like I was, it's like, oh God, they made me mad. Now I got to wait another year and a half to get out of my contract. If a client makes me mad, we are stopping this contract today, and I don't care. And so, I mean, that's empowering. It's definitely empowering.
That's
But
interesting.
I'll say this too: when you fire those clients, make sure they have enough money in the bank to make sure you can live. Because I'm 100% commission. I mean, if I don't sell, I don't eat, and you know I like to eat, and so it's really important that you know I have a good cushion in my account to give me that power to make those decisions.
Look, be smart, right? Look, I know you want to fire them, but make sure you have everything in order, right, Hubert, before you
Yeah.
before you cut them off. I know that someone in the comments says they have their own business. Is anyone, I know Ms. Beverly Dawkins is an entrepreneur. Is anyone else here an entrepreneur, part-time or full-time? Trying to become full-time, Alexis, great for you, great. Miss Karen Lenore is a media coach, producer, voice artist, and founder. Great, great. She has her contact information there. Great, Miss Alexis. Benice. Great, great. We have quite a few entrepreneurs. Let me see what else we have in the comment, in the chat. Okay, so my next question, and I want to say to the audience, the people that's here, please feel free to chime in with a question, raise your hand if you want to give a thought or anything. But Hubert and Stephanie, have you had any naysayers? Were there anyone that said, you know what, you can't do that, you need your job, look, you need your insurance, you need that 401k. Were there anyone that tried to discourage you from following your heart and leaving corporate America? And if so, how did you deal with that?
my mama and daddy. Um, they are, oh my gosh. I mean, they come from a generation is like, once you get that security, that good job, you don't leave that good job. And I was like, I'm leaving this good job. And they was like, okay, well, you go forward. And I did. And you have to believe in yourself. Of course, I love my parents, but your family can be some of your biggest naysayers. And so, I had to believe in myself in order to move forward. Now, once I got going and once they started to see that I had closings, they were like, oh, okay, all right, you're making this work. All right, we're on board now. But when you have no one, you have to go for it yourself.
You have to encourage yourself, as the gospel song says.
Yep.
Stephanie?
Yeah, I would say it was a tough sell. My husband he's kind of old school, so he would prefer that I work for someone versus like being an entrepreneur, a business owner. So it's taken some convincing. It's hard because, they have to support you starting from nothing and know that it might be a struggle at first. My dad, although he really liked that I worked on TV, he is a business owner. And so when I told him what I was going to do, he's like, well, as long as you have a plan and y'all can pay your bills, then go ahead for it. I think my mom was kind of like hesitant and still like encourages me to get a job like somewhere versus like being an entrepreneur. But she also was the one who heard all my complaints about working in TV. So she's just like, I don't know that you need to go back there because do you remember when you said this or you didn't like this or that? So yeah, I mean, it's a hard sell for your family though, for sure.
But I'll also say this, my friends and family, they have been some of my biggest supporters. They send me clients, they refer people to me. I've done deals. I mean, my sister bought a house for me. My cousin bought a house for me. And so they've been some of my biggest supporters. And so I think it's the initial shock that you're going to do it is what takes them off guard. Because and I'll say this too, it's like for me, I majored in journalism, communications. That was what I worked for so long. Yeah. And that's the only thing that they knew me doing. And so it's almost like you have to change the narrative about who you are. It's like, okay, yeah, I used to do TV, but now, I'm transitioning. And I don't refer to my time in TV as a bad time. It's part of my journey. And I have no ill will towards TV. It's just, it was a relationship that in that moment, in that lifetime, that came to an end. And so I think that, and even for me, I had to change the narrative for myself because I only knew Hubert as the TV reporter. I mean, that's the only person I knew. And so it was also in that moment when I started reading these books about redefining who you are. Brene Brown, who I love. If y'all know Brene Brown, she's amazing. She has this book called The Gifts of Imperfection. And in that book, she posits, I see, is it Karen or Karen? Karen, I see she's clapping. But in that book, she posits that imagine what could happen if you let go of who you think you are and embrace who you really are. And that like stuck with me. Like I had to sit with that with a glass of wine and just go into like some meditation because it was deep. It was definitely deep because that's what I thought I was. But it's amazing when you let go and let God do his thing and lead you in a different direction, or the universe. If you don't believe in God, that's okay too. But whatever you believe or whatever you feel within yourself, your conscience, your gut, do that. Don't do what your mind says. Just go for it.
When he says preach, look, you just said a word and
that is a word.
Yeah, that is really a word. And I appreciate you saying that. All right, Karan, you have your hand up.
Hey, you guys. Miss Dijon, is that you, Mr. Mustard? I think I know you, sir. I see he just joined us. Anyway, I was going to say when it comes to support, I'm in a lot of forums. I deal with a lot of business owners and work as a business strategist specifically for communications. And that pivot came because finding work in broadcast as a nearly 50-year-old woman has been really difficult. I've been in business since I was 16 years old. I don't remember there was a time when I ever wasn't in business. And I started that because I had an older sister who was still very comfortable asking my mother for $2 a day to get a soda while she was in college. And I didn't want that fate, but there's a lot of discussion around who supports you and who doesn't. And I love what you said, Hubert, about Brene Brown's book and releasing yourself from the expectations of other people. Because the truth is, I had the kind of success that no one in my family ever had. With or without a job, by the time I was 17 years old, I made more money than both of my parents combined. And I didn't know what to do with it because they didn't come from money. They didn't know about investments or creating a strategy for their future. And it hasn't been a linear road. There have been times when I've taken work and there's this thing about shaming people who go back to work after having a business that may or may not have succeeded. But the truth is, those of us who are in business and who are around for a while have a whole lot of ups and downs. It's a whole lot of stops and starts. It's not always linear or clear, but the majority of the people that supported me were not people I knew. They were strangers. They were not family members. They were not friends. And then, my family and friends couldn't afford me anyway, because that's just the way I'm made. But but it's really important to know who you are, period, who you are in the marketplace, and clearly identify what your goals are, because that's the only thing that's going to attract the kind of people that you want and help you set the kind of boundaries you need to make a real life for yourself and create some real revenue.
Mm-hmm.
That is actually really beautiful, Karan, and I really
Thank you.
That. And I can relate to both of you. Can you please put in the comments your book, the books that you like? I'm going to post some links.
Oh, yeah.
And when we end, I'm going to leave the chat up for a while so everyone can get the notes. But please post like your favorite books. And the ageism thing, Karan, that's a whole nother panel we need to talk about. Ageism, which is really, really bad, I believe, in the media industry. And I think we need to do something about it. I think it's bad, period. Music industry, all of that. I'm a grown adult. I don't always want to hear a 20-year-old. There's some good 50, 60-year-old women out there, or men who's making some really good music. I want to hear them on the radio as well. But that's another panel. Alexis commented, if you haven't checked, I think it was Alexis. Would you like to share your story?
Sure. Do you guys hear me? I'll tap in.
Thank you.
So before I even embarked on the career, the only reason I actually took the credential was to get any certification to just master myself as a documentary filmmaker. Even before entering school, it was kind of like told to me, wasn't enough experience. Meanwhile, other counterparts, especially coming from Canada, didn't have any experience whatsoever and were being accepted in, but they wanted me to take extra schooling. I said, no way. Found a way out of that. Took a few years off, started joining film schools, doing internships and stuff like that, re-entered back, got my journalism certifications, went through that with problems, had a teacher that was quite racist and sexist, failed me by 2% specifically. Then when I entered the force, after working my way all the way up to be like an anchor person, technically being told that I'm too woke, basically too outspoken, and it would be nice if I could conform my hair, being that I'm light-skinned and maybe I should perm it. I didn't agree with that, so just kind of left the field before it started and became a documentary filmmaker on my own. Found problems in that field too, because being outspoken and doing things in the social issue field kind of doesn't go well with the commercial side of things, or your brothers and sisters that are doing things in that realm in your city. It's a very smaller clique in Toronto, Canada. So it was a little bit more difficult for me. I am 41, even though I look younger. And I do have a 23-year-old son. So that was also a difficulty. But I'm still doing things amongst journalism, just more on a community standpoint, more on an activist field. It's just more, I'm probably re-entering now because I did leave, like many of you, started a few other businesses on the side, a little bit more spicier, a little bit more freeing up, a little bit more about inspiring women. because we needed, especially now during COVID, Black women, we've been stuck in the house. A lot of issues have submerged. Sometimes we just need a place to free up, party, have fun, watch Oprah and inspired documentaries, have a book club, you know, do stuff like that. So I kind of started a lifestyle brand, but that's been my experience in journalism. It's not to say I want to leave it. I'm probably going to re-enter it again, and probably more in the documentary film world again, since there has been so much breakthrough in technology and they want women back, especially Black women, right? So I might as well put myself in there. Plus I'm Afro-Indigenous as well. So there's a story to be told in that as well. So yeah, you know, and I'm really inspired by this group. So thank you and keep doing what you guys are doing. I'm not alone, you know, that's what I kind of feel.
Alexis, thank you for sharing your story. A couple of things, please put your contact information, your social media, so anyone can contact you. And there's a theme here, right? There's a theme. We talk about how people are calling you when you're giving birth, right? How managers are wanting you to be insensitive and interview parents of a teen who just died, and how there's ageism and how there's discrimination. Look, we can solve all of that, right? By somewhat, by being our own boss, we can somewhat have a little bit more control, right? Of that. And again, the ageism thing, we may do another panel on that. Would anyone else like to share their experience? Oh, I do want to say something too, Alexis, that Hubert always told me, and this is the beauty of being in media. You talked about how you're still like in journalism, like once a journalist to me, always a journalist, right? We can take our skills and work anywhere. We can take our skills and start any business. We can take our skills anywhere. If I want to go do communications in the medical field, I don't need a medical degree for that. I can just go do communications in the medical field, right? If I want to do communications in government affairs and law enforcement, like I'm doing, I can do that. These skills can take us anywhere. Hubert, do you want to tap in on how you sold me into the idea that our being a journalist but made a great transition to be a real estate agent, right? The skill, you already had the skill set. You talked about, the former drug dealers. Yeah, they have the skill set, they have the acumen, but we really have the skill set too, right?
Oh yeah. Essentially, when you're putting a story together every day, you're selling it to an audience, and you're selling it to a public who needs to know that you are truthful, that you can tell a story, and that you're confident in what you're doing. That's all I do in real estate. I sell houses, and so it's my job in that moment. You have to think on your feet and really sell that house. And so I see that the skills that I had in journalism are easily transferable to what I do in real estate. Even like the descriptions of my properties, fantastic 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. I can write that in like 2 seconds. Because I had to write a both side in like 1 second when I was working in TV. And so those skills are just phenomenal. And even, of course, working in communications, real estate is all about communications and being able to give voice to for your client and to stand up for your client. And so and really at the end of the day, your client just wants to make sure that the deal is going well and make sure that you're communicating. And so I've used that over and over and over again. And I think that is what has helped me in my career. And there's also stigma related to what I do as a salesperson, in TV or in journalism. So, that's the sales side of the building. We don't go over there. They're not journalists. They're not upstanding citizens like us. And so I had to break down, get through that stigma for myself. Is that this is what we do. This is what I do. And I've even thought about, because I do believe in the power of journalism. I do believe in an open and free republic. I think that even, one day, perhaps, maybe I find myself on the sales side of the TV station, leading to a general manager. I don't know what that may look like, but it's just those skills that we have, coming from the journalism world are just easily transferable, just like that.
Thank you. I'm going to read something really fast, and the people are commenting, so please chime in and read the comments. Yahoo Finance Finance published something, I think November 2nd. It's the 5 reasons Black women are leaving corporate America at mind-boggling levels. I'm going to post that link in the comments. It's interesting. It said 5 reasons, but I only found 4. And the first reason is that the pandemic ravaged jobs. So we're talking about the pandemic, how there's been a surge, as we all know, of entrepreneurship. There's even been a surge of, what's the word I'm trying to say? How it's like, oh, be an entrepreneur, be an entrepreneur, be an entrepreneur. That's all I see all over. And it talks about Black women are launching businesses and starting side hustles. I'm going to read this. It says, Black women are among the nation's fast growing groups of entrepreneurs. Between 2014 and 2019, women-owned businesses grew by 21%, but Black women-owned businesses grew by 50%, according to American Express. The number of Black women running a side business outside of regular work increased 99%. That's almost every Black woman that was working, that is working, compared with an increase of 32% of all sidepreneurs, 99% of Black women. Then it says, Black women are tired of waiting to be recognized by higher ups. It goes back to that control. You can control your own destiny, right? You can set the rules for your life. And the 4th one, it says, it's exhausting being a Black woman at work. It's exhausting. Does anyone want to chime in to any of those things that, according to Yahoo Finance?
Can I chime in on that?
Yes.
I'm Jamila. I can't come off of the. I'm not attired to come off of the video at the moment. But when all of this PPP loan money was being given out, we remember that the federal government said, "Oh, we have to have special weeks put in place so that small business can get these loans and not Papa John's and University of Notre Dame." Black people wound up getting TWO, 2% of that early PPP money. We wound up getting, we stayed in that amount of money that Black businesses were getting from COVID relief money. When you look at small business administration money, Black people have never broken more than 10% out of the budgets per year. Black women, I'm so sorry, me and the kid are just allergied tonight. Forgive the sneezing. Black people, as we know, Black women have been the likeliest demographic to start a business, own a business. We still have not broken 1% of venture capital. We're still at like like 0.237, something like that when it comes to venture capital. We have these businesses. We keep our families afloat. We know how we make $1 out of 35 cents, but we do not get the investment. We do not get the relief. And it's not only because, oh, well, Black businesses, they don't have their paperwork together. And, oh, well, these sole proprietorships aren't, they're not in areas that we need. There's no sector of the economy that Black women are not side hustling in. We journalists are doing it. Everybody who's been babysitting and making plates and doing hair and, helping people do their website and their copywriting. We know this. I'm on my soapbox. I'm gonna get down. I'm gonna say this and then be quiet. Black women, Black men too, but I'm carrying water for my own right now. Black women handed the White House and the Senate and the Congress to the Democrats last year. This is a political policy issue about how to support us as we need funding to build our own businesses and continue that thing that we have been doing since we got here. And it's something that I think more of us who are still in newsrooms need to be writing about. I'm Jamila in DC. Thank you for hearing me. I'm gonna be quiet now.
Thank you, Jamila. I really appreciate that. Karan, did you have a comment or question? Was your hand raised? Was that on purpose?
No, I was shouting. I was saying amen.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Ooh.
I was gonna say, I think she brought up some good points. I didn't look as much into the PPP, but I think it was a pretty detailed process. But I know our county was giving out grants to business owners, and you had to be paying attention to the county commission meetings and looking at their Facebook and do the application. But it was pretty simple, and they were giving out like $2,000 if you had a business, which, it's not a lot of money, but still something. And so I think, part of it is that we just have to share that information to each other and be in the know about these things that are happening, but also pay attention to who we're electing into office, because every level of office, local, county, state, they were all giving out funding. It just depends on, they were deciding who they were going to give it to and how they were going to pass it out, what qualifications that you needed. And so that was like really, I guess, eye-opening for me to see how much control that they had over something like that. But I agree with you. I think we need to be applying for more of this funding. Yeah.
Oh my God, I want to chime in on that, especially what you just said, Stephanie. I work for county government, so everything that's happening in the county, I know about it firsthand, and it's opened my eyes to a lot. A lot of the small little towns within our county got a lot of money and gave like $25,000 to free money.
Yep.
And I'm like, why? I didn't find out until it was like, released. I'm thinking, why didn't I know about that? I know people that can actually use, these funds. We're talking about free money, guys, free money.
It was for us, it was like a certain amount of time, and you didn't know how long it was going to last. They just said, like, if you were a business and you were in the pandemic and you were impacted, you just had to apply and show that you were registered with the state, and they were giving out this grant money. But then after like a month, they're like, okay, we've had it open long enough, we shut it down. So like, if you weren't paying attention, then you just missed it. And I think one of the issues was that a lot of people had businesses where I live, but they weren't registered with the state, so they couldn't apply for the grant. And so that was a lot of Black people here. So that was an issue for some. But and you had to have had your business start before the pandemic.
Yeah.
That's real. Like having a business license and doing everything by the book. That is so important to make sure that you keep good accounting, pay your Secretary of State registration fees, buy your taxes. Like all that is very, very important, especially as an entrepreneur. Commingling, mixing business funds with personal funds. I mean, you want to keep all that separate at all times because when those grants do come up, they want to see a record. They want to see a profit and loss sheet. They want to see, how much you're making this month or how much you're not making. So keep good records. That is so, so important.
And I would say be engaged in the conversations, because I had found out this was going on, and the county commissioners were literally having their meeting, and they were just throwing out stuff to decide who would get this money. And so one of the commissioners had like a separate meeting with some business group that I was in, and she wanted to hear from this business group of like, who needed the money. And I told him, I said, you need to allow sole proprietors to be able to have access to this. It's not fair that you're only giving it to this type of business. And then also like the requirements that you're asking for a sole proprietor, because they kept asking for your employees. So what about people who don't have employees? And so they ended up changing the guidelines to open it up for more people. And it benefited probably more Black people because of that. But if I wasn't engaged in that conversation, they just would have designed it so that it would benefit, the people who helped them get into office.
You know what, Stephanie? I mean, not only are you a business owner, but you're definitely a journalist. You're definitely a journalist because you're talking about elected officials, the county commissioner, these meetings, things that we really need to pay attention to. Again, Now my job is based with the county government. So I'm really there. I didn't pay attention as much to these meetings. I didn't pay attention this much to what these commissioners are doing, how much money they get to delve out to the community. Now I'm right in it and I'm like, wow, there's a lot going on that we need to pay attention to. And all this money that a lot of these local governments got, there is a small town in DeKalb County that got into some trouble. It's published, there's news articles about it, got into some serious trouble. You can look it up. With the money that they got. When I saw the money they gave out and what they gave it out for, I was like, oh my God, it was almost a free for all. And then I thought about the people who really could have used it. Black people who had small businesses for 2 or 3, 4 years and needed that extra little hump to get over it. And it was grant money. It wasn't even a loan, free money.
Yeah.
And so I do think we need to share information more. We need to get more in tune with the local governments. And when these type of disasters and pandemics come about, there's money flowing around and we need to really start sharing this information. And the town, I'll tell you, is Stonecrest, which is in DeKalb County, Georgia. Look up Stonecrest and look up the AJC and see what they did with their money. Again, they got into some legal trouble, but the amount of money that they were giving sole proprietors, small businesses, somebody who decided they wanted to give massages. It's funny, but it's not funny, you know, but it's the fact that they had access to this capital and a lot of people didn't.
Yeah.
We need to share that information. Is somebody else hand up? Karan, I think I need to lower your hand. It makes me think.
Yeah, it was me. Just real quick, because I have to run to another meeting. This has been amazing. But, you know, when it came to the PPP, I wasn't able to get it. And I've been in business for more than 10, I've been in business my whole life, but the business I have now has been more than 10 years. But the reason I was told I was denied was because I moved between the time the pandemic started and the pandemic ended. And it was an address mismatch. So it was on an automated system where the banks couldn't line up my information. And then one of the banks I used closed. And that was a huge issue. It was one of the largest servers of independent business owners and small businesses that got eaten up by another larger bank. So those kinds of things come into play. But when it comes to sharing that information, I didn't find out about the local government stuff until after they prematurely ended it. It was right after they ended it that I found out about it. So we do need to share that information. I thank you all. I'm so sorry I have to run, but this has been amazing. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for joining. Again, guys, I'm going to leave the comments up. We're going to wind down now. I'm going to leave the chat up so you can get information. So please drop information, contact, links, books, resources. Does anyone else want to say anything before Hubert and Stephanie have the last word? Anything, feel free.
Oh, hi, I'm Brittany Collins, and I currently work as a multimedia journalist / videographer in West Palm Beach, Florida. I used to be on air as a multimedia journalist at 2 stations prior to getting off air, and I'm in that transition of going into PR. So I did see the advice that everyone gave me. I've been getting interviews. You know, I know I've been getting my resume tweaked at and looked at over the last few years, last few months, even because I knew I wanted to make a transition, but I'm finally doing it now. The only issue that I'm coming across is during the interview process, I know that the skill sets from journalism are transferable into public relations. So I didn't know if there was anything else that I can be doing or saying to stand out, especially since I'm probably interviewing against other people who have legit PR and communications experience.
Brittany, what is your educational background?
Journalism. I have my undergrad from FAMU in broadcast journalism, and then my master's because I was teaching as well part-time from the University of Alabama in journalism. So my whole background is journalism, storytelling, multimedia.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Be sure to reach out to and follow DCOW. They have a ton of resources, contacts. The network is quite amazing. And people, please feel free to offer any advice to Brittany in the comments. I put my contact information there. Stephanie has her contact information. Does anybody else want to give advice? Business owners, any tips?
I was going to comment on Brittany's too. Her question about what else she can do. I know that when I was transitioning from TV to communications, one thing that helped me get really aggressive about what I was doing, I looked for a cause or a sector or field that I really loved, and I just went so hardcore on those. And so at the time, and still now, I was very passionate about LGBT issues, HIV/AIDS research. And so I targeted those a whole lot. And so in my cover letter, I would say I have, this background in journalism, and your job is like a marriage of what I truly like and truly love. And so that kind of helped me to stand out it was a marriage between the two to create this job that you have posted. And so, and I ended up with the job at the Human Rights Campaign, and clearly it worked. And so I would definitely say, whatever that sector or branch or field or, nonprofit cause that you want to be part of, like try to sell yourself in that way as well.
Okay, that's a good point. Kind of find something you're passionate about and using it to, okay.
And that'll help you in your job too.
Right, yeah, that way you actually like being there. That makes sense, okay. But I understand, I've been in the industry for a very long time, and I love it, I have
Sorry about that. Somebody was.
I'm gonna have a praise service.
The party's about to start.
Mr. Bob, please chime in. Hello.
Hi, I just wanted to say thank you for doing this. I'm not in PR. I'm still a reporter at KCBS Radio in San Francisco. I also wanted to shout out Hubert and Stephanie, who I've known for quite a while, and I'm very proud of what you guys are doing. So that's really all I wanted to say. Just thank you very much for doing this.
All right, thank you, Mr. former NABJ president. You're all the way in California.
I was a huge encourager too. Like I am so appreciative of his leadership and helped me in those early days of journalism. So I'm very thankful for it.
I didn't help you very much. You're out of the business.
Life is a journey. Who said I was going to come back one day?
As a boss, we have Bernice, we have Armani. Okay, go ahead, Bernice.
Hey everybody, just want to say thank you, Kamara, and also Michaela, Stephanie, Hubert, for this. This has been really, really good. I always have been one to push entrepreneurship. Even those who are in the business working as journalists, I always say have a side hustle, have multiple streams of income. And that can be having one business, but creating multiple streams in that one business, or having several businesses to bring you money. So I appreciate this combo. It was great. I also am the host and creator of Becoming Storytellers podcast, which focuses on journalists of color. And I get the behind the scenes, the stories, the journeys of journalists of color. And so if you guys want to check that out, a lot of valuable information there too. You can check me out on Instagram at Becoming Storytellers and on all podcast platforms. So thank you again, Kamara, and everyone else.
You're welcome. And Bernice, if you haven't already, please put your contact information.
Oh, yes.
I'll leave it up for a while. Okay, Mr. Armani, let me unmute you. Okay, go ahead.
I'm gonna mute. Hey everybody.
Hi.
I believe it's been my second day in the group, and I appreciate everybody for everything. Like I'm at a stage where I've been in this business for it'll be 3 years. Yeah, 3 years now. Start off as a camera operator in Jackson, Mississippi. I was a news producer in Albany, Georgia for about a year and a half. Now I'm a video editor, and I'm trying to transition. Like I'm actually trying to get out of TV altogether and get into communications. Like just be behind the scenes, and like one of the hardest things I'm having when I'm having these job interviews is trying to explain to these employers like the skill set and like how it translates, because my resume, like all I've ever done for really since I was in college was news. Like I wrote for the newspaper in college. Like I used to to shoot at the basketball and the football games. And then once I graduated, all I've ever worked at was work TV stations. So I'm trying to get out of TV like for good and just get a regular communication job. And I've been trying to do that for about the past year and a half because I'm at this stage where, I mean, I just turned 26 and I've already moved 3 times like over the past 3 years, and I'm just trying to be in it, just get one of those communication jobs. And I just been having a hard time, honestly. Like I've been trying for like the past year and a half. I don't know if it's because of the way my resume is, or is it that a lot of these communication companies just look at my resume and see TV, so they don't know like the skill set it takes to have some of these jobs. So if somebody can give me some advice, well, on that, it'll help.
Well, first of all, thank you for sharing your story. And before we chime in with the advice, please send your email address please leave your email address, your name and your email address in the chat. I'm going to connect you with Kamara with DCOW to see how much we can help you.
Yeah, Kamara, me and her talked. She's actually the one. She's the first person that I talked to, and you know, she's the one to hook me up with this group yesterday. She did my resume and everything yesterday.
Okay,
so
good.
Helpful.
So I'll get with Kamara, and Hubert's from Jackson as well. Does anybody want to chime in and give Mr. Armani some advice? Let's help encourage him on his anticipated transition from TV to more of the communication field.
Well, I can definitely say, my fellow Jackson, Mississippi brother, that it takes a while. It takes a second. I think when I made my transition, you know, I was applying for jobs left and right. And, you know, every night after work, I would just apply for jobs. And it took me a solid, I would probably say, you know, it took me a solid year and a half to find a job that I really wanted to apply for, as well as actually get an interview and all that good stuff. And so I would definitely say just stay encouraged, keep pushing, keep applying, you know, brushing up your resume, working with folks, getting in as many circles like this in order to, you know, make as many connections as you possibly can. You'll be surprised by, you know, just making connections, how that could help you as well. And so it sounds like you're doing everything that you need to do. Just stay persistent and consistent. And I think that will really bring about the change that you want.
I do want to say, Armani, why don't you identify, if you haven't already, some companies you want to work for? Identify these. Have you identified some companies?
I know over the past year and a half, like some of the jobs that I applied for some writing jobs, Microsoft, Home Depot, because like the thing is, I want just a regular communication job where I'm behind the scenes. So like there's no like one specific company that I would like to work for, but I'm just trying to really get that first job, because I believe that first job is going to help me, like, you know, figure out what it's like to work in communication. Then it's going to help the next job that I have. So right now I'm not sure exactly why I don't have any one job that I'm trying to get, but like the biggest thing is trying to get out of the industry that I'm in. TV, I realized that TV really isn't my thing anymore.
Yeah, I'm coming to you, Laurel. So are you in Atlanta, Armani?
No, I live in Tallahassee. So I'm actually looking for an opportunity out there in Atlanta.
So what I would suggest to you in the short term, get on LinkedIn, look at these companies, look at these jobs you may see, and find the recruiters on LinkedIn and follow these recruiters on LinkedIn. Send them messages. You want to come to Atlanta? Go ahead and look at jobs, see who's hiring. These recruiters are on LinkedIn active. Hit them up, follow them. Once you follow them, like some of their stuff, they'll start seeing, you know, the engagement and start getting familiar with your name. Tell them what, say, hey, I'm in Tallahassee, I'm looking to get to Atlanta. I would love to connect with you. That's what you can do tonight. That's a tangible thing you can do tonight. Identify these recruiters of these companies that you would love to work for and hit them up on LinkedIn. Hey, Laurel, I'm trying to unmute you. There we go.
Hi, I just wanted to follow up with Armani on this because I kind of have a similar but slightly different trajectory. I used to work in news. I worked with CNN, and I currently do marketing right now with Chase Bank. And I use so much of my communication skills, which I didn't even think would correlate, but it's that storytelling that you do that you can easily use those soft skills that you're not thinking that you have, that the corporate world and business world don't have. So trust me, you might feel like it's subordinate because that's how the news industry kind of makes everyone feels. But the second you go out, when you have a corporate job, you're going to feel so much like a huge value. So like you should feel so optimistic, and literally it's all about like getting exposure. So I agree with the previous advice. Just try to go on LinkedIn, message recruiters, even search for roles that have communications or marketing or PR, because when those like for early levels, you're basically doing so much and you just need to get that title underneath you and the sky's the limit, or go inside of a company's ecosystem and you're good to go.
Thank you for
that advice. Oh, I was gonna say just something that I've been doing, and I think you said you work in local news. Use that to your advantage. When I'm out covering stories and when we have people come by the station, I'm always asking for their business card, because you just never know who they might know, and it might look like I'm using it for, you know, and of course I'll pitch it as a story idea for our station, but at the end of the day, I'm going home, sending them an email for my personal email address. Hey, we met, this is what I'm looking to do. And if there's any opportunities out there that you might know about, you know, could you please let me know? And sometimes they're really friendly about it. Other times they might ignore you, but I definitely utilize, you know, working in news to your advantage. You run across so many people that are looking for communication specialists or public relations officers all the time. And that's what I've noticed that's been helping me out. And
Well,
also with your resume, you know, just those skill sets that you have are very transferable in communications. Even if you're working as a videographer or or as an editor, you know, you're still a storyteller. So you just, you know, change the words around on your resume to make it transferable into PR. So.
Very good. Thank you so much, Brittany. Thank you so much, Laurel. Armani, like Laurel said, the moment you step in that corporate office or that office, you're already light years ahead of everybody else, because your skills that you're gaining right now in TV has already put you ahead of everyone else. You'll be surprised, but believe in yourself. So we're going to end now, but I'm going to leave it up for a moment in case you want to get the information in the chat. Thank you so much. Tag this social media, LinkedIn, DCOW. Thank you, Hubert. Thank you, Stephanie. I put some links and my contact information in the chat. Please, everyone, have a great night. Be safe and go Braves. We're World Series champions. I'm going to be on here with no video, though. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. See you later.
Thank you, Stephanie. Laurel, you're the best. Thank you, Beverly. Thank you, Brittany. Thank you, Jamila. Thank you, Denise. Thank you, April, Tori, Armani. Get the info in the chat, everyone. Get the info in the chat. You're welcome, Denise. Have a great night. You're welcome, Jamila. Thank you, Armani. Believe in yourself. Get the information. Hit me up on LinkedIn, Armani. Michaela Vincent. My information is in the chat. I'm leaving it up for you. Hit me up on LinkedIn. Hit Hubert on LinkedIn. Hit Stephanie. Stefante, hi. Make sure you get all the information in the chats. Thank you, April.